Hey, what's going on? Stranger here, and welcome to another YouTube music production video. And today we're going to be learning how to make a minimal neuro drum and bass beat like this. Okay, so we're just going to jump right into it, and I have some drums pre-selected, but I'm just going to show you what I have. So I'm in the kick channel here and I have a number of kicks here. And the key with making minimal rollers or minimal neural drum and bass is using tight kicks. So kicks like that are ideal, and then looking for snares that are also tight as well. So here's a couple of snares. Again, going with the same theme, your hi-hats are going to be nice and tight as well. So we're just going to get right into sequencing. I'm going to go into my kick, and the standard rolling drum and bass pattern is a kick here and then a kick here. Okay, so we'll just play that. So pretty standard. I'm just going to move into my eighth note view so I can see things a little more clearly. So I have a kick on the first beat here, and then I have a kick on the half step of the third beat. Pretty simple. So now we're going to go into our snare. So double click, make a new clip, and then we have a snare on the second and fourth beat. So this is what we have now. Pretty standard, but we're going to build on this. So now I'm going to go into my hi-hat. So I'm going to solo my hi-hats. And there's a trick that I like to use for hi-hats, in that I like to model my kick snare beat with different hi-hats. It kind of gives it a more unique sound, and as opposed to putting the same straight hi-hat on every note like this. So that's pretty standard, and you could totally go with that, but I like to add a little more variation. So I have 4 hi-hats here. They all sound a little bit different. I might put this one to model my kick, so one here and one here, just like how I programmed my kick. And then I have one on my snare position, which would be the second and third beat here. And then finally, I fill the remaining gaps with another hi-hat, preferably one that sounds really nice and tight, like this one here. So now we have this. And another step to really make my hi-hat sound tighter is to play with the sample end here, this end point. So as we move this end point, your hi-hat will get more tighter because it's playing only a shorter amount of that sample. Now make sure the snap button is turned off. If you have it on, Ableton will try to find a snap point for that sample, and sometimes it might end the sample prematurely, so we want that off. Actually, we want this hi-hat here. Turn that snap off, and you might introduce a fade into that hi-hat so it doesn't end abruptly. And then we'll do the same thing. This one here. This one's sounding pretty tight already, but let's say if I had, maybe I had this hi-hat here. So this one could sound tighter. Notice how it sounds tighter now? Now let's bring the beat back. Now make sure to adjust your levels accordingly. Now I'm going to go into my snare and also apply a similar method to tighten up my snare. So turn that snap off, adjust that sample endpoint, and then add some fade so it doesn't end abruptly. Now we can cycle through the different snares. Maybe I could want to try this one here, so you can actually click the sample and drag it over to the next drum slot. So this one's sounding pretty good too. It's up to what kind of sound you want. You could go for a more live snare here. Now you're gonna also have to EQ your snare to really bring that snappiness like that. I find around that 2 to 3K frequency really brings out that snappiness, and sometimes that around that these lower mids bring up that body. And then you want to take out the bottom end from that snare. So using a high pass here, just bring that frequency up. Anywhere from 110 and below is good. So that removes all that unneeded low frequency. One neat thing I like about Ableton is that you can click on the keys here. It'll select all the notes in that same key. And then you can use your arrows and flip through. A cool thing I like to do is add some bits and pieces from a breakbeat to add a little more shuffle to your drum break. So I'm going to go into my sample kits and look for a break. What we want to do is look for a break that has nice little ghost hits, those shuffles. Like that has some nice shuffles. That also has some nice shuffles. So we'll slide that in. So if it's an RX2 file, then you can right click and just slice that directly to MIDI. I'm going to slide this over here and I'll solo this channel. I'm liking the ghost notes here. I'm looking for that shuffle in between the snares, right? So in between this snare and this snare. So I'm just going to highlight this area, hit Control L to loop that section. I'm going to crop this, right click. And actually I'm going to move into the 16th note position. I'm going to mute everything except the shuffle here. Remember when I showed you guys in the liquid drum and bass breaks video, I like to line up the 8th notes. So if we go into 8th note positions, take this as a whole, move this to as a whole like that. That way it keeps the groove intact, okay? There. Now if I bring it back to 16th note view, notice that these ghost notes are a bit off, and that's what gives it that groove, okay? So I'm going to play this with the beat. Okay, not bad, not bad. We can modulate this a little further to make it sound a little more tighter. First of all, I'm going to go into my audio effects and then pull out utility so I can increase the gain. There we go. So the first step is we can adjust the sustain and decay to really tighten up those little shuffles. So bring the sustain all the way down to negative infinity. And then adjust the decay accordingly. So the shorter the decay, the tighter your drums are going to sound. That's sounding pretty good already. Now, another step is we can pitch up those shuffles. So we can go into the control section, and there's a transpose here. I like anywhere from 3 to 6 is good. We can maybe try 5. And once you've set it to 5, now you're going to have to right click and copy those values, the siblings. Otherwise, only that slice will get pitched up. So copy that, and then all the slices will be pitched up by 5. Now I might want to adjust my decay a little more. Okay, I'm going to go in here, and perhaps we might just want a shuffle here and maybe not here. I'm actually going to show you another step. We're going to add a percussive hit on this ghost note here. So we're going to go in our percussion. I've got some wood percussion. So wood percussion is great for ghost notes. So claves, little tom or bongo hits are very nice. So you can put that over there, and I hit play. You can bring that down, see which one you like. I like the tightness of the clav. One thing I like to do is add some groove to your ghost notes. Now you can do this manually by just moving it off the grid a little bit. And it's sounding pretty good already. Let's see what happens when we go up here. Yeah, I'm liking the clav, and I think this could be pitched up just a little more. Maybe let's try +7. That's better. Tighten up that decay, bring it down to under 100 milliseconds. That's great. Increase the gain a little. Now we're going to add an additional tambourine line to really give some energy to this drum break. So we're going to go here, and a standard pattern I like to use is add 4 here and then adjust the velocities. That's adjusting how loud each tambourine will hit. So I like high, low, medium, low, and then simply copy and then duplicate, and I'll play it for you here. Right? So we now have this shuffle. Whereas before, we have this. That sounds too straight. So you want that high, low, medium, low pattern. Okay? And now let's hear it with the beat. Now, using the same methodology with tightening the hi-hats and snares, we can apply that with the tambourine as well. So let's turn off that snap and then adjust the sample endpoint. And then we can play with transposing that tambourine. Sounding pretty good. Then we can adjust the volume. Finally, we're going to go into a ride, and this is a standard ride pattern, so 1 on every quarter note should work. Now I had already tightened up this tambourine, but before it was here, and it was like this. You simply want to pitch it up and then adjust the sample endpoint, add some fade, maybe adjust the volume. We got a nice little rolling minimal drum and bass beat. Now we can group all the drums together. Actually, I'll just undo that, make sure this one is also included. That's the break. I like all my drums the same color, so I'm going to change this to the same blue. And then make sure to select all your drums, clicking the first one here, holding shift, and then clicking the last one, right click, group the tracks, rename it as drums. And then you could add some cooler stuff like some glue compression, bring the threshold down. There's a little more control to the fluctuations in your drum break. Okay, once you're ready, then it's always good to hear some bass over your drums. In the next lesson, we're going to show you how to do the bass, but for now, just to have something to listen to. All right, so that's pretty much it. This is the foundations of making tight, minimal rolling drum and bass. You could call it minimal neuro, what have you. many subgenres of drum and bass where you can use this type of beat, and you can definitely take this and really deviate from the norm and get some really cool sounding drum breaks. But you got to really get this foundation down before you can really move into mastery. So encourage you guys to really try this. Again, it's simple, just kick and snare patterns, looking for nice and tight single drum hits. Tighten up those drum hits by adjusting the sample end, adding some fade, and then adjusting the volume of each hit. It all plays well together. Then adding some glue compression at the end, and then you should have some pretty cool drums rolling. And of course, adding those little ghost hits, such as from the break beat and those wood percussion, really adds groove to your drum break. So really encourage you guys to practice and get that down. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Let me know what else you'd like to learn in future videos. We're going to move into designing some bass for this type of sound in the next video. And if you like this video, then make sure to like and subscribe. And until then, we'll see you at the next video.